when you were talking about the action heroes in these different types of movies and portraying men in this way that they have to take action and there's like an immediate response, I thought something that I really enjoyed from the book was talking about how you have different teachers' testimonies in classrooms, and there's research behind it that it's likely that boys will ask fewer questions, with the justification of wanting to know the right answer or feeling like they have to know the right answer, and not being equipped with it and exposing that vulnerability is a risk. And I think like that's something that's on maybe that more minute level, but has almost a greater impact. Like widespread is something that's so impactful that yeah, I just never like put two and two together, but I could definitely tell in like my own experience, like reflecting back, maybe I didn't know what it was as to why I didn't want to speak up in class or ask a question. But I think that was definitely a piece of it, was that like I felt like I was maybe supposed to know. And if I said something that was wrong or acted like I was vulnerable in that moment, then it was showing a weakness to myself, you know? So yeah, I just really enjoyed that you really touched on that piece in the book.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. First of all, that was very eloquently explained. You really unpacked it beautifully. Thank you. You really did.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And that's a great analogy. And you're exactly right. That's exactly what it is. You're right. It's far more prevalent for boys and for young men. It's far more prevalent, right, than that domination ethos. And you're right. It does have higher stakes, because one of the things, that I realized when I was doing the research is that it's not a coincidence that, when you look at the extremes of education, you've got, far more boys and young men dropping out of high school and college as well than young girls and young women. You've got a vast difference, and I'm sure you guys have seen this often across the board with grades, with getting homework done, with just a work ethic, huge difference in just the work ethic. And then even so far as, if and when guys do graduate from college, girls and young women are getting entry-level jobs now at higher rates than boys and young men. And I don't think at all there's any kind of bias there against, young men. I don't think that's it at all. I think that a lot of employers realize that, a lot of girls and young women are willing to let people see them sweat. They're willing to work hard, and they're not going to back down and say, yeah, I'm working hard and I'm asking questions and I'm really trying to make sense of this, and they're not going to back down. And that's what has been lost, I think, with boys and young men. You still will occasionally see, and I've been teaching for a while and I see this, I'll still occasionally see young men, trying to like dominate, to feel like they've got to dominate the conversation. But I don't see that as much as it probably happened in the past. Now there's just a lot of guys sitting there basically with their hand, sitting on their hands. And you're right, they're not engaging as much, and they're not asking as many questions, and they're not asking for help nearly as much outside of class as the young women are. And I really do think it's a more, as you said, a more nuanced form of this kind of, traditional masculine script at work. It's the idea that, like you said, guys should have the answers, and guys should have the answers, or they should have a response, and they should be right as much of the time as possible. Mm-hmm. There's no place in there for curiosity, guys, right? Yeah. There's no place in there for questions, mm-hmm. because questions immediately expose you as not knowing the answer and not having an answer in the affirmative. And so that is going to make a lot of guys feel, well, if I take a chance and I'm wrong, man, I can't look wrong, and I can't look wrong, in front of the class. And it's not that you've got girls and young women constantly with their hands up endlessly. That's not the case. A lot of girls and young women also don't want to appear vulnerable either in this day and age. But my experience has been, and I think it's true of a lot of educators, we do see far more girls and young women being involved in conversations than the guys. And we do see them getting their assignments in on time. We do see them seeking help a lot more. And they are more willing to take risks by asking questions. And you're right, I do talk a lot about that in the book, because I think that that is a really core thing that would help boys and young men, not just in school, but in the workplace. I was doing this call-in with a group, and it was I forgot what it was, but it was a call-in, and there was another guest and myself. And somebody had a question. It was all young adults, and she had a question. She said, a lot of guys in my workplace, just want to dominate the conversations, right? They, not surprisingly, this isn't the workplace; it's beyond the classroom. They want to dominate the conversations, and we have to really work hard to get them to kind of pull back. And she said, how can we do that? And I said, one of the things that I think we really need to get guys to learn, if we can't do it when they're in school, we can still do it in the workplace, is asking a really smart, thoughtful question. This goes back to the idea of questions, because that shows that you're listening, which is, as you guys have learned, it's a really valuable thing in all relationships, whether it's interpersonal or intrapersonal. Listening is a really important skill. You guys know that. You're podcasters now. You know this.
That's right.
Right. But the other thing too is that it shows that not only are you listening, but you're thinking and really taking what they're saying seriously, and you're trying to add to the conversation, not dominate it, not show how smart you are, but you're trying to add to the collaboration of creating something bigger. And in a workplace, that's everything. Right? Workplaces are getting more collaborative. And so questions are much more important that are going to help the team, rather than just the guy sitting there saying, I've got all the answers.